Vanessa the Crafty Gemini. I post weekly videos right here on my YouTube channel, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make these really cute and functional fabric watch bands. Let's go over the supplies that we're going to need to make our watch band straps. Here you can see that all of these sample watches were made using my Dominicana fabric collection for Timeless Treasures. And you can see that it really doesn't matter what fabric you use. This project is going to look great no matter what, really. You're just going to match it up. You can either choose a coordinating or contrasting watch face for them. Remember that I always include a link for you in the description box below this video where you can find the different hardware and things like that, including the fabric in this case as well. So you're going to need your fabric to begin with, and I'm going to be using my plus or minus print from my fabric collection that's on a gray background. It also comes in a white background with multicolored plus and minuses in the different colors. If you're going to be wearing the watch on a daily basis so that it doesn't get too dirty or noticeably dirty, I would recommend going with a darker print. So I'm going to be using this one for the tutorial. So we'll set this print aside. Aside from the fabric you'll be using, you're also going to need some type of lightweight fusible interfacing. You can see that this one is pretty sheer. It just helps add a little bit more body to the watch band strap, and you're only going to need a really tiny strip of it. So if you have a scrap on hand, go ahead and grab that. Aside from fabric and interfacing, we have some other notions and hardware that we'll need. You want some type of machine-safe sewing, like sewing machine-safe washable glue. And I just use the Elmer's washable glue. I use it for a ton of different projects and it works great. You'll also need a measuring tape because we are going to take the custom measurement of your wrist to make sure that the band is going to fit you in the end. You're going to need the watch face for it, and I include a link on where you can get these in my friend Laura's online shop. A 3/4 inch D-ring, and then one full set of snaps. And I'll show you on a sample watch here how it's used. You can see that that's how it snaps in with the strap. So you need the male part, the female part, and 2 of the end caps that are smooth. And there is the D-ring hardware. So that's how we are going to be attaching our watch bands, okay? So you need 2 end caps, male and female part. And then you'll also need some type of snap plier setting kit. This is the most affordable. Unless you have like one of the big ones, you can use that too. But I'll include a link on where you can get this with a variety of snaps in the description box below. And then I have an awl here to help me make the hole to then install the snaps. So that's pretty much it. Aside from that, you'll just need your sewing machine with whatever thread you want to use for the top stitching of your band, and an iron and an ironing board. Now the first step is to measure your wrist. So I'm going to place this around here and come back and measure to the 0, and it looks like my wrist measures about 6.5 inches. Okay, so we are going to write that down, and I'm just going to jot it here so you see it as I do it. So that's 6.5 inches for my wrist circumference, okay? Now to that measurement, I want you to go ahead and add 2.5 inches. So we're gonna add 2.5, and that's gonna give us 9 inches, okay? So keep that number in mind. That's gonna be applied to our interfacing. Now, we are gonna cut our fabric. We cut the fabric at 4 inches wide, and that's just the width that we've decided that works well for the overall finished watch band. So we're gonna cut fabric at 4 inches wide. By this measurement that we got here, go ahead and add another 3 inches to it. And that's going to give us 12. Okay, so these two are the important numbers, 9 inch and 12 inch. For the fabric, we're going to cut it at 4 inches wide, and that's just set by this number. After you added this, plus the 2.5, plus 3 more. Okay, so 12 inches. So the fabric is going to be cut at 4 inches by 12. And the interfacing, we're going to cut at just 3/4 inches wide. It's a little teensy strip like this. All right. And that's going to be, the length of that is going to be the 9 inches, this measurement. So just the wrist plus the 2.5, this one is what you're going to cut the length of the interfacing. Does that make sense? The fabric gets added another additional 3 inches to get this. And the interfacing is just 3/4 inches wide. And these measurements, the width measurements, are set by these, which will vary depending on the circumference of your wrist. Okay, so now we have to cut fabric at 4 by 12 and the interfacing at 3/4 by 9. So I have my interfacing cut at 3/4 by 9 here. Let me cut a rectangle of my fabric 4 inches by 12. All right, so my fabric has been cut to size and my interfacing. I want you to take the rectangle of your fabric and put it so that the pretty side of the fabric is face down, and we're going to fold this guy in half lengthwise. And I just want this to make a crease mark so I can see where the center of it is. Okay, open it up, and then we're going to lay the strip of interfacing, fusible side down, in the center here, and just kind of eyeball it as best you can. The center crease line should be running through the center of the interfacing when you lay it in place. And then as far as the ends here go, remember that this only measured 9 inches and the fabric measured 12. That means that there's an additional 3 inches. And if we want to evenly space this apart, 3 divided by 2 chunks here is going to be 1.5 inches. So you can eyeball it, or you can measure so that you end up with about 1.5 inches sticking out of the fabric beyond the end of the interfacing. You can see that I eyeballed that pretty good because it's perfect right there. And now, depending on how lightweight your interfacing is, you may or may not be able to hit it with an iron from the backside here, especially since most interfacings that you'll probably find are going to be polyester, and those will melt or shrivel up on you if you hit it with a hot iron. So I am going to set my iron to really, really low. If you want, you can like tap it in one little spot just to help hold it in place. And then what I like to do, see how it's stuck there, is just flip it over carefully and press it from the fabric side. And there I can crank up the heat on my iron a little bit more so that it can fuse it from this side. And at the same time, we're getting rid of that crease, which we also want. We just use it as a guideline. All right, so there is my interfacing strip, and it's stuck right in place. Now we're going to grab our glue, and we want to turn in the ends so that the raw edge here meets the end of the interfacing. So I usually will just press it in place to create the crease line first, and then I'll go back and just add a little bit of my glue. This is going to really help us get some crisp lines and help everything lay nice and flat for us for sewing. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Just bring it to where it meets the end here of the interfacing strip. Now we're going to repeat the same thing, but with these outer ends. So first I want it to fold in till it meets the edge of the interfacing strip right here. And we're going to do that to both sides. This is going to add a little bit more stability and weight to the strap itself. And at the same time conceal all those raw edges. So now it should look like this. All you're seeing in the center portion here is that interfacing strip. Now we're going to just fold these guys over to overlap them like that, so that the finished width of the watch band is going to be the same width as the 3/4 inch wide strip of the interfacing that we used. And you can see how easy it is to do with the glue. It really helps. And what I try to do at this point is bring it all the way over. I try to get this folded edge as close as I can to this one, so that when I do the top stitching along both long edges, it catches both layers of fabric. Now we're ready to head over to the sewing machine to top stitch this all the way around and into place. Now, to orient the strip on what side to top stitch from, you'll notice that one side is the side that we last flipped over and overlapped, and you'll see where you see the seam like this. That's the side that I like to put so that it's on my skin when I'm wearing it, because if you look at the other side, it's nice and smooth, and I prefer to have this cleaner look on the outside of the watch band. So keep that in mind when you go to sew. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine with this smooth side facing up so that I can make sure that I'm doing a nice straight top stitching line all the way around. You're going to come around all 4 sides, stitch across the bottom, come up and across this way on the entire strip. And here is the top stitch strap. Now the next step is to install the D-ring. So if you have this pretty side facing up with the top stitch side, the smoothest side that has no seam, you're going to flip it over to the side that does have kind of that fold over seam that we had, and we're going to slip that end through the D-ring and bring it back on itself to overlap just about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, okay? And now we're going to head back to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch around this little edge to secure it there in place. You can do just a square or a rectangle around, or a square rectangle with an X inside. I think I'm just going to go around once and do one diagonal, and that will be plenty to secure the D-ring in place. Now that the D-ring has been stitched into place, I want you to flip it so that that overlap side is face down and orient the strip so that the D-ring is closest to your body. All right, now grab the watch face and orient it so it's correctly, just as you would be reading the time on the watch face. So then we're going to take this loose end that has no D-ring and you're going to slip it through the bottom, the closest opening on the watch band face or the watch face that's closest to you. You're going to go through there and then up through the other one. Like this, okay? So this is how we're going to put it on our wrist. Now I'm going to slip it over my wrist to kind of show you how it's going to come together and so that we can figure out where we're going to put our strip. And this is a little tricky to do and keep it in the camera because I can't lean it up against my body, but I will try. So you're going to slip that through the D-ring. And then this is going to come back like this and attach with a snap on the other side, okay? So here's what I like to do. I like to install the male end of the snap on the end that's going to go closed. So if you see, this is the one that's going to have a snap that then you're going to click in place here. So I go ahead and install the first male one. So if you make a mark there, you know that this is going to be the outside part of it. And I'm just going to come in about 1/2 inch from the end. Do you see that? About 1/2 inch up from here, and that's where I'm going to install my first snap. So let me take it off. We see our mark, and I know that this is the outside part, so the end cap, the smooth end, needs to go here, like this. And then the male end of the snap that's going to clip is going to go underneath. So let me show you. When you made the mark there, take your awl and make a hole. You can eyeball the center of it because it's not that wide of a strap band. So I'm just making a hole so that it goes through all the layers. Then I take my end cap, and that's the smooth side. On the side that I made the mark should be the outside part, so it needs to be the smooth part, this one. And sometimes you gotta push it right through there because there's interfacing, there's the bulk of that turned under fabric. There we go. And then I like to push the fabric down around the prong that comes out on the other end. Okay, like that. And there is the silver prong. Push the fabric down around it. And then I'll grab the male end of my snap, push it down in there, grab your pliers, and install it into place. All right, so that one is done. Now I'm going to put the watch band on so I can use the male end of the snap to mark where I want to install the female end of the snap so that the closure is nice and spaced and it's exactly how I want it to fit on my wrist. So the first thing I do is slide the watch face down so you don't have too much of this end that has the D-ring on it. So like you don't want it here in the middle, okay? Slide it further down so you have about 2/3 of the strap above the watch face. Now I'll put it on. All right, so we're through the D-ring now, and the male end sticks out of the strap, right? So fix it how you want it, however snug you want it on your wrist, and then I want you to press down, don't hurt yourself, but press down into the fabric where you want it to like snap in place, and that's gonna make a little indentation in the fabric strip and let us know exactly where we need to install the female end of it. So let me make a mark by squishing the 2 layers together like this, or you can just make a mark too with a pen or whatever. But I can see that I have a nice mark right there. I can see where I need to make a hole to install the female end. All right, so I'm making my hole right where I want it in the center. And now you need to see which way you need to install the snap. If you recall, we had it like this, because it's really important on which end the female end will be and which side the end cap will be. So if it's around my wrist like this, and this needs to snap in here, that tells me that on this side, I need to have the female end. All right? So it helps to go visually through all this stuff. So the smooth part needs to be on the back side. And if you see, whatever side the smooth cap was on the male end, the same thing needs to apply on that side. There. Now I'll put the female end right here, and we'll install this end of the snap. All right, and there's the spacing. The watch band is complete, and now I can put it on. There it's snapped into place. And it looks pretty good. And that's it for this video tutorial. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make some really cute fabric watch bands. Remember, if you want to get your hands on the fabric we used in this video or on any of the hardware that you need to complete the project, I always include a link for you in the description box below this video. Now you can also find the links to the supplies by clicking the lowercase letter I that you see in the top right-hand corner of this video. If you enjoyed the tutorial, be sure to hit it with that thumbs up below and feel free to share it with your crafty friends across the different social media sites. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.